Pai is a demon girl who travels to Japan in search of the son of a certain Professor Fujii. There, she meets a 16-year-old student named Yakumo, who is working in a bar where the waiters are all men in drag. To make up for running her over on his motorcycle, Yakumo buys her a drink. When she realizes Yakumo is, in fact, Professor Fujii's son, she presents him with his father's skull and a letter in which the professor recounts his journey from Tibet to Kunming. He explains that the girl is probably the last remaining survivor of a phantom race that uses immortality magic. They are called the Sanyi and Unkara, and he had been looking for them for the past 7 years. The Sanyi and Unkara have lived entirely isolated from humans and are, in fact, demons. Pai doesn't even know the immortality techniques, but she claims to be almost 300 years old. Apparently, a long time ago, the Sanyian discovered a way of becoming human, and Pai hoped that the professor might help her achieve this goal. Unfortunately, the professor passed away, passing this responsibility on to Yakumo. He writes that Yakumo must find a special artifact in order to turn Pai into a human. That artifact is called the Statue of Humanity, and has been entrusted to the Yogekisha Company in Hong Kong. The professor ends the letter begging his son to go to Hong Kong with Pai. Initially, Yakumo refuses this call to adventure. He gets very angry, saying that his father is oblivious to his hardships and questions why he would do anything for this filthy brat. His temperament changes, however, when he sees Pai after her makeover. He remains reluctant, though, as he doesn't believe in demons. This soon changes, however, when a giant flying demon appears in Shinjuku. Pai recognizes the creature as Takui, a demon who lives inside her cane. She states that they need to calm him down before he destroys the city. And so, Yakumo now finds himself being chased around town by a flying demon. Probably not what he expected his evening to look like. As Takui is about to attack Pai, Yakumo sacrifices himself to save her, and is impaled by the demon's talons. In response to this, Pai opens her third eye, which awakens her second personality. In order to bring Yakumo back to life, Pai removes his soul, turning him into her immortal servant. Now convinced that demons do in fact exist, Yakumo agrees to take Pai to Hong Kong. Just as they're arriving at the Yogekisha office, men in white suits steal the statue right in front of them. Attempting to chase them down, Yakumo gets run over by a bus, confirming his immortality. Although Yakumo himself still seems unaware of his condition. Li Lingling, the assistant chief editor of Yogekisha, drives Pai and Yakumo to a huge mansion where the antique thieves supposedly reside. They infiltrate the house and immediately find the artifact. They also find Mrs. Wong, the owner of the house, tied up in the corner. She explains that since the death of her husband a year ago, she's been seeing strange demon-like creatures, and tonight they tied her up. An odd-looking man named Cho then intervenes. It soon becomes clear that Wong and Cho are hiding something. And it becomes even clearer when Cho pulls a gun out. Turns out, they were behind the theft. Fortunately, Lingling knows some martial arts and is able to dispatch Cho rather easily. However, the trio are unable to escape the mansion because the entrance is guarded by a dozen armed men. Yakumo's immortality becomes apparent once again as he is shot full of holes but still survives. This time, the Wu symbol is revealed on his forehead. He asks Lingling about it, and she relays what the professor told her, but she doesn't believe in that kind of stuff. Yakumo, on the other hand, is a little spooked out by the idea that a three-eyed demon may have consumed his soul. Before Yakumo is able to confront Pai about it, they are attacked by some kind of magical entity that blows them onto the roof. Pai's alternate personality defeats the enemy and then explains to Yakumo that she has not consumed his soul, rather, their two souls have been fused. And their fates are also bound together. If she dies then so will he, and if she becomes human then he will too. Cho joins them on the roof and summons a large demon. After an arduous battle, Yakumo is able to defeat the monster by electrocuting it. And just as Cho is about to run off with the statue, Wong shoots him in order to avenge her dead husband. However, before he dies, Cho beams the statue up to a giant hand in the sky, as you do. Later, Yakumo promises Pai that he will one day make her human. After which, they both return to Japan, where they attempt to create a semblance of a normal domestic life together. Yakumo departs for school, leaving Pai alone in his apartment. Yakumo and his friends work together on repairing his scooter so they can go on a road trip together in a couple weeks, but Sanyi and Pai soon shows up to remind Yakumo of his true mission. She tells him he's a Wu now, and trying to continue life as a human will only create misery. This is confirmed as soon as Pai leaves, because Yakumo and his friends are attacked by a demon. Fortunately, Pai intervenes before the well-dressed demon is able to kill Yakumo's friend Natsuka. The demon is intent on consuming Pi in order to become immortal, but she gets rid of him rather easily. Upon returning home, Yakumo sees that his apartment has been trashed and finds Pi passed out at his boss's place next door. He explains the situation and assumes Pi is responsible for the state of his room. His boss gives him the advice that it's too late for him to go back to a normal life now and that he and Pi should leave. The next day at school, Yakumo's friends try to avoid him because of what they witnessed yesterday, and Natsuko is downright traumatized. Rumors of Yakumo's supernatural abilities soon spread around school, providing him with further proof that he must leave town now. On his way to pick up his scooter, he bumps into Pi, who says she wants to go to school so she can make friends too. Yakumo resolves himself to find the Statue of Humanity so he can one day return to his normal life. Pi then meets Natsuko and, in her Sanyan state, she explains that every time a member of her race uses their powers, they are forced to rest, during which time they are weak, which is why they enslave immortal Wu in order to protect themselves during this period of vulnerability. Yakumo overhears the entire conversation and wonders whether Pi in her normal state also thinks of him as a slave. Natsuko is then possessed by the demon from the day before and slaps some kind of talisman on Pi's face. With Pi incapacitated, Yakumo is once again forced to deal with the demon by himself. Which he does. Unfortunately, the part of the demon fused with Natsuko is still alive. Yakumo begs Sanyi and Pi to make the demon immortal so he will stop torturing Natsuko, but she refuses. So Yakumo offers up his own immortal body to be consumed instead, which gives Pi an opening to destroy the monster, saving both Yakumo and Natsuko in the process. In the end, Yakumo reconciles with his friends before he and Pi leave on their journey. In the meantime, Lingling has been tracking down the Statue of Humanity using a transmitter she apparently placed on the artifact before it disappeared. She tracks it down to a man who found it one night after it fell from the sky. As he is about to show Lingling the statue, a demon attacks them and they are seemingly killed in an explosion, leaving only the man's younger sister alive. Pi and Yakumo arrive in Hong Kong, expecting to meet up with Lingling. Instead, they are greeted by the sister, Mei Xin, who immediately attacks them after they mention the statue. She believes them to be responsible for her brother Steve Long's disappearance and offers to give them one of the statue's broken off skulls in exchange for him. They are interrupted by mysterious masked men who assault them and then drive off with the skull. Which is starting to seem like a common occurrence at the Yogekisha offices. In the aftermath of the attack, Pi reveals that she sent her cane demon Takui after them. As they're tracking down Takui, Mei Xin explains that her brother is actually a psychic who earns a living performing exorcisms. The trio arrive at the hotel where Steve Long is being held captive. In the elevator, they are attacked by a demon. Takui flies in to protect them but is immediately defeated. The group is subsequently separated. Yakumo eventually comes across Steve Long who tells him about Qian Wang, the demon that this cult worships and even performs virgin sacrifices for. Which is what they plan on doing with Mei Xin. While fighting the demon, Yakumo is able to retrieve the Statue of Humanity and threatens to destroy it if the demon doesn't explain what they want to use it for. The demon tells the story of a powerful master who was able to unite all the creatures of darkness. It is this great Qian Wang who wants the statue and he has promised to grant immortality to the one who brings it to him. The only problem is that no one knows where Qian Wang is or how to find him. Although, legend has it that he was imprisoned by an unknown force over 300 years ago. The demon is able to grab Yakumo and takes possession of his right arm in order to sacrifice Mei Xin. However, Yakumo manages to cut off his right arm using the blade in his other hand just in time. This is when Pi finally arrives to save the day, using a machine gun. Turns out Lingling is also alive, and had disguised herself as a cultist in order to survive. Together they are able to fend off the demon and escape. However, as the group is about to leave on Wang's helicopter, they notice Pi is missing. She has become entranced by the statue of Qian Wang and experiences some kind of ancient vision. Her other self tells her not to remember, as it took so long to forget these horrors. Yakumo returns for one final round against the demon, whom he manages to kill using his cut-off hand from earlier. Before he is able to reach Pi, she is approached by a mysterious man whose intentions remain unclear. When Yakumo finally finds her, she is passed out on the floor and the man is walking away. 2 weeks later, the gang is staying at Mrs. Wang's house, who is secretly waiting for Qian Wang's resurrection and intends to set up Pi as his replacement should he not return. Out in the streets of Hong Kong, Pi sees the man with the Wu symbol again. Yakumo runs after him. He tells Yakumo to give up the Statue of Humanity as it belongs to them. Sanyin Pai arrives and identifies the man as Benares. She declares that she will stop Qian Wang's resurrection at any cost. To which Benares responds by disappearing into thin air. Yakumo suspects that the man is Qian Wang's Wu, but Pai turns back to her clueless self before he can get his explanation. Meanwhile, Mei Xin's shadow is infiltrated by some kind of demon that takes possession of her body, and before she knows it she's killing guards and, as you can probably guess, stealing the Statue of Humanity. Sanyin Pai destroys the shadow demon in no time and Mei Xin passes out. Benares then visits Sanyin in the form of Takui, asking her to bring the statue to Aberdeen by tomorrow morning. There, he will put Pai into a deep sleep and will only reawaken her once Qian Wang has been resurrected. Benares ends his little message by destroying Takui's body. Poor Takui couldn't catch a break. After making a little grave for her pet demon, Sanyin finally recounts to Yakumo what happened 300 years ago. She says there was once an evil Sanyin who tried to rule the world with violence. The Sanyins who rebelled against him were massacred, and with Benares as his Wu, everyone had to submit. In the end, the survivors sacrificed themselves to seal Qian Wang away in their holy land. When she came to, Pai was the only one left. While the others are celebrating Steve's recovery, Pai leaves on her own to defeat Benares. Her Sanyin personality tells her not to go alone, but she responds that she doesn't want to put the others in danger. Noticing that Pai is missing, Yakumo runs towards Aberdeen but is stopped in his tracks by a giant explosion. Some time later, Yakumo is seen on a train. He vows to find Pai so they can both become humans together. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to Retro Recaps so you don't miss out on any future content. See you in the next one.